If you guys ever tried having a voice-to-voice conversation with an AI model, you might have felt like it was a little bit choppy and unnaturally slow, right? You can feel that it can effectively mimic human emotions, but the timing and the back and forth was always a little bit off, right? And I think there was a meme on YouTube that kind of mocked this signature awkward silence that happens before responding to your question. And apparently, now that problem is gone. What's more amazing is that even language translation is possible in real time with almost no delay. And this is kind of putting translators at risk of losing their jobs. So recently, OpenAI released a new update called ChatGPT Live, and that was about 2 weeks ago. Basically, ChatGPT Live is able to have real-time conversations with a human being without sounding choppy or unnatural like it did before. So it has now something called a continuous presence during a conversation, which means that it understands time passing and it also understands the pace of speech. So, just like a conversation that you have with a human being, even if you interrupt it like you normally do in a conversation, it would respond almost immediately like a human being and change the subject accordingly. And what this also means is that there are no language barriers anymore, since two people from the opposite sides of the world can hold conversations while putting ChatGPT Live on speakerphone. So, for example, whatever I'm saying right now will be translated into Spanish, Korean, French, or any other language in real time, along with my voice. So if you don't understand English, you would be only hearing and understanding the translation language as I currently speak. Of course, the technology is still premature and the ultimate version is still a ways down the road, right? But I think at this progress, right, at this rate of progress, it will probably get there soon. So this is what we have to think about. What does this mean for the rest of humanity, right? What does it mean for us as language learners? Does that mean that learning a foreign language is no longer required in the future? And in Korea, there was a video that was recently uploaded about how this new AI update would eliminate the need to learn a foreign language. Because why spend time and energy acquiring a language if all I need to do is simply use an application on my phone, right? This was basically their logic. And this video got a lot of traffic because English education is quite big in Korea. And this got people debating about whether it is still worth it to study English now, especially with the translation technology breaking language barriers across the globe. And just like any other video, I was reading through the comments, and while I was reading through the comments on people feeling relieved about not having to study a foreign language any longer, I was completely flabbergasted. I was thinking, how could people be so nearsighted, so myopic? Because if you view language as a form of art and literature, you realize that one can never truly master a language, even in their native tongue, right? There are just so many nuances and ways to express your thoughts in subtle ways. So there's no end. But if you simply view language as a tool, right? If you view language as a tool for basic communication, then acquiring another language just becomes a waste of time, because if you carry a smartphone, you can do a lot of things. You can dine at a sushi restaurant in Osaka. You can order coffee in Vienna, Austria, in German, and you can even go on a gondola experience in Venice without a single problem, right? You can visit all of the countries in the world, and you don't even have to speak the language. So, at the end of the day, I guess it depends on an individual's depth, right? The depth of how they view the world and how they understand human society. And I can never personally come to think of language as a tool, because it's not just a tool, because my thoughts stem from my vocabulary. My thoughts stem from my language. The amount of expressions I know directly correlates with the variety of ways I can express my abstract ideas inside my head, right? Without words, I think that my thoughts are just a floating blob of shapeless colors, a non-existing image that is floating inside my head and never becomes solidified, right? And only with the power of language do my thoughts become real. Thoughts that can be shared and evaluated, right? And thoughts that can be transferred and reshaped into something else. And to me, this is the definition of communication: expressing what I deem to be true through words. And that is what I enjoy hearing from other people too, right? So this is what I believe. Language expands my thoughts, expands my knowledge through small nuances and subtle implications. And mastering languages is just inevitable as long as we are conscious human beings and not just animals that only focus on reproduction and survival, right? So there was a Austrian philosopher, Wittgenstein, and he famously once said, "The limits of my language, it means the limits of my world. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." And you know, these are such powerful words with elegance and perspicacity, which probably would not have been possible had he not mastered his own languages.